I started seeing what I think is just crazy stuff, Hollywood-type language. If you talk to a stray dog, she dies. There was language in there that I have never seen in my career anywhere in a kidnapping note, except in the movies.
Hello and welcome in. You are watching another episode of Examining the Evidence in the case of JonBenet Ramsey. Today's episode will cover the movie Ransom and the role the film may have had in the crafting of the Ramsey Ransom note. The one thing that was picked up fairly early on by investigators in this case was that the movies played a significant part in the creation of the ransom note. There are multiple phrases and references from certain crime drama films that highlight the verbiage in the ransom note. Near identical lines from movies like Dirty Harry and Speed, among others, are peppered throughout. The influence is like fluorescence. In today's episode, we will focus on the movie Ransom, which just might be the movie that most influenced the words in the Ramsey Ransom note. We will look into all of the weird little consistencies between the Ramsey case and Ransom before I dig into the three key elements or plot lines that I have identified from particular scenes in the film that I believe may have directly influenced the authorship of the note, and perhaps other staging elements of the crime scene as well. For the finale, we will synthesize all of the information and I will analyze the Ramsey's own statements made about the film Ransom, and see if they hold up to statement analysis and critical behavioral scrutiny, and of course, in my opinion, what it all means. The movie Ransom was directed by the great Ron Howard and starred Mel Gibson and Rene Russo. The movie debuted in the theaters on November 8th, 1996, which was just 47 days before the death of JonBenet. So Ransom, unlike the other films used for reference in the note, the storyline, plot, and some of the other verbiage would probably be somewhat fresh or easy to recall in the mind of the Ransom note author or authors. Ransom is about a self-made airline executive CEO and his well-off, well-to-do family. The film opens with a party celebrating Tom Mullen, the character played by Gibson, and the success of his own airline company he founded, Endeavor Air. A few days later, during a science fair competition, the dad helps his son finish tying the knots needed to fly the model airplane he built for the fair. The son is later kidnapped while chasing after his model airplane in the park. The rest of the movie is centered on getting his son back. If you've seen the film, the Mullen family is pretty much a replica or spitting image of the Ramsey family. Spitting image is a word Ramsey's son, John Andrew, used, which we will get to in a bit later. Some of the other rather odd coincidental nuances that show up in Ransom that eerily shadow or make an appearance in the Ramsey case, for one, is the spiral staircase the Mullens had in their home. A little later, the kidnapper taunts Tom Mullen on the phone by asking,
"Is it rainy? Damp?
Is he in a cellar?"
He also says, "Remove your wristwatch, he dies," which is very similar to a phrase in the Ramsey Ransom note. And there are others throughout, but let's move on to the more serious nuts and bolts of it, the good stuff. As I mentioned earlier, I have identified three elements or parts of the plot line from the movie Ransom that I believe may have directly influenced the author or authors of the ransom note. The first is the ransom note itself that was used for the movie. Let's listen to it first, then we will take a look at the verbiage that makes up the note and see what it tells us.
Oh, Jesus!
I want $2 million
Oh,
in 50s
God.
and hundreds. No consecutive serial numbers. No new bills. No marked bills. The money will fit into 2 Samsonite hardshell suitcases, model number 260. Do not involve the police or the FBI. If you do, I will kill him. Do not inform the media, or I will kill him. No tracking devices in the money or the cases, or I will kill him. You have 48 hours to get the money. I will contact you.
I remember watching this a few years ago now, for the first time since 1996. It was like, wow, this is compelling. There really is something here to go on. So let's go through it again and compare it with the Ramsey note as we go along. And right off the bat, in the movie, they say, I have your son. And in Ramsey, it's nearly identical as we have your daughter. But immediately after this, both ransom notes give us their demands. In the movie, it's $2 million. In Ramsey, it's $118,000. Both notes then tell us the denomination of bills they request and how to divide it up. And then, immediately after this, again, both ransom notes tell us exactly what we need to use to transport the money to them. In Ransom, it's 2 Samsonite hardshell suitcases, model number 260. And in the Ramsey note, it's an adequate sized attaché. Also, a brown paper bag. Moving on, in Ransom, it's do not involve the police or the FBI. If you do, I will kill him. And as you can see in Ramsey, it is speaking to anyone about your situation, such as the police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded. And then what's even more interesting is both notes then match a sort of repeated and rhythmic waxing of the words, if you will. In Ransom, it's ending sentences with, I will kill him, I will kill him, I will kill him. In Ramsey, it's she dies 4 straight times. Finally, they tell the Mullins they have 48 hours to get the money and they will contact you. In Ramsey, they will make contact by calling you between 8 and 10 tomorrow to instruct on your delivery. This is a huge piece. The two notes linguistically share parallel concepts and phraseologies. Even the order of ideas are very much the same, and some nearly word for word. The second key element I found in the movie is in a scene when the FBI is first setting up communications inside the Mullen home. Mullen asks the FBI agent this question.
What I don't understand is these people, this he, she, it, whoever, got enough brains to snatch my son right from under my nose, but they only asked me for $2 million. Don't they know what I'm worth?
No. It's being smart, okay? Keeping it nice and simple for you.
So, Tom Mullen is questioning the amount the kidnappers are demanding for the return of his son. Why are they only asking me for $2 million? Don't they know what I'm worth? And the FBI agent responds by telling him, no, look, he's being smart. He's keeping it nice and simple for you. He knows you got it and can come up with that amount pretty easily. This sequence is when the red flags started to fly up. In the Ramsey case, the note only asked for $118,000, which in comparison to John Ramsey's overall wealth was a minuscule amount. And in the clip we just saw, Tom Mullen is pretty much stating the same exact thing. Then I remembered something that Mr. Ramsey has continuously stated in the past in his interviews on television and in other appearances. He uses a phrase strikingly similar to the question Mullen ponders in the movie. Take a listen.
What I don't understand is these people, this he, she, it, whoever, got enough brains to snatch my son right from under my nose, but they only asked me for $2 million. Don't they know what I'm worth?
Watch movies that much, so I was perplexed at why 118,000. Why not $1 million? And the amount of money that was asked for in ransom was a strange number, 118,000. why not 1 million? Why not? Where did that number come from? It meant something. 118. Why not 1 million? Why not 500,000? Why not? That's a weird number. That means something to the killer.
This is fascinating to me, that this plot line shows up in both the fictional movie Ransom Note and in the real world Ramsey Note. The father in the film and the father in real life using nearly the same dialogue and diction while asking the same pondering question. More on this in a moment. The third element in the movie that I found rather interesting was in a scene that takes place shortly after Mullen asked his $2 million question. Mullen pulls the FBI agent aside and confesses that the kidnapping must be in revenge or retaliation against him and or his business. Or in other words, it must be an inside job. Sound familiar? Before the final analysis today, I need to take you back in the timeline of the Ramsey case and walk you through the history of events that played out to provide the relevant pieces and statements that were made by the Ramseys prior to the Ramsey interview I'm about to show. As I briefly alluded to earlier, just 2 days after the death of JonBenet, John Andrew Ramsey, JonBenet's older brother, was interviewed by the Boulder police. In that interview, he told them that whoever did this had seen the movie Ransom, in which the family of Mel Gibson's character was a spitting image of his own. So, in the first 48 hours after the murder, John Andrew instantly made the connection to the movie Ransom, that the circumstances of his sister's case closely matched that of his family and the plot from the movie. About 7.5 months later, on August 13th, 1997, the Ramsey family bought a full-page ad in the Daily Camera, which was subsequently picked up by the national media. The ad told the world for the first time that they believed the killer was obsessed with techno-crime movies and that the ransom note featured lines and verbiage from the movies Dirty Harry, Speed, and Ransom. Less than a year later, in June of 1998, the Ramseys interviewed with the Boulder authorities for a second time. In these interviews, the Ramseys ad and the movie Ransom were discussed between the investigators and the Ramseys. A year and a half later, in the beginning of the year 2000, the Ramseys released their book, The Death of Innocence. Inside, on page 364 of the hardcover edition, John Ramsey gives us his own profile of the killer. It reads, "He is younger rather than older, and is probably between the ages of 25 and 35. He goes to the movies. In fact, he may have seen the movie Ransom, which was playing in Boulder shortly before JonBenet's murder." Several of the phrases used in the ransom note came directly from movies, including Ransom. So, what we have established is the Ramseys had clear knowledge of how the movies most certainly played a role in constructing the ransom note. In their ad, they provided phrases and references from movies like Dirty Harry, Speed, and Ransom that were very similar to the words in the ransom note, the most crucial and critical piece of evidence in this case. With all that in mind, let's watch a small piece of an interview the Ramseys gave shortly after the release of their book, The Death of Innocence, in March of 2000. After you watch and listen, tell me if anything jumps out or is noticeable to you.
But we've been told that there's a lot of movie talk in here. This person liked movies. They may have seen the movie Ransom, which was playing in Boulder
at the time.
And there were some similarities between Ransom and your life in terms of the profile of the people involved. The billionaire. Have you ever seen the movie Ransom?
No, I haven't seen the movie.
Okay. Well then.
Yeah, I've been told that it's very similar. apparently there's Clint Eastwood movie lines in this thing. We don't watch the movies that much, so I was perplexed at why 118,000. Why not $1 million? I mean, why not? If this, but there's
an
only
unusual
this
number.
madman knows why.
Wow, there really is a lot to unpack here. A lot of clues are puzzled together in just this 1-minute clip. Ramsey starts off by telling us we've been told some movie talk is in the ransom note. To me, the "we've been told" or "I've been told" line is a distancing device that creates a step of separation between him and the information, which allows plausible deniability whenever it may be needed. He then brings up the movie Ransom and tells us the killer may have seen the movie. However, when Woodward mentions the similarities between the family in the film and the Ramsey family, John goes blank, causing her to ask, "Have you ever seen the movie Ransom?" Ramsey tells us, "No, I've never seen the movie." Next, Ramsey, possibly feeling the heat of the last question, tells us, "We don't watch the movies that much, so..." And then, for an encore, and where have we heard this before, Ramsey weighs the question, why only 118,000? Why not ask for more? So, how did the Ramseys know catchphrases and references from the movie Ransom were similar to what was written in the ransom note if they had never seen it? And this is the crux. Why haven't they seen it? The Ramseys know that the movie meant something to the killer, and that the film might hold critical clues to who the author of the ransom note is and potentially identify the killer of JonBenet. And yet, 3 years and 3 months after the death of JonBenet, the Ramseys hadn't watched the movie Ransom. This is a disconnect. Why are the Ramseys distancing themselves from the movie Ransom? Why are they distancing themselves from all movies when Ramsey says, "We don't watch the movies that much"? Could it be they are trying to hide their knowledge of movies? Now, why would they want to do that? The Ramseys had a makeshift movie theater in their house in Atlanta. And also, when they renovated their Boulder home in 1993, they installed a 96-inch, 8-foot screen that cascaded down from the ceiling, just for the purpose of watching movies. They also had movie posters hung throughout their basement, but they don't watch the movies that much. Color me dogged or determined, perhaps even obsessed, but I've watched Ransom at least 5 times over the years looking for clues that could connect me to the killer or author of the ransom note. Why haven't they? Are you watching closely?